Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we're going to cover all the home teams, Saints, Pelicans, LSU Tulane football, we'll talk about the college baseball as well as college basketball. So we got a full show for you today, and to break it down for us, one of the best we have in the city, Fletcher Mackel of Channel 6 Sports joins us on the program. Fletch, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming down today.
Thanks for having me as always.
Fletch, before we get started, tell us all about Channel 6. You got a brand new show coming up on Sunday. I'm excited about it. I know you guys got to be excited about it. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, we do. Every Sunday at 11 p.m. now, we'll have a show called Game On. Myself, Sharif Ishak, Kendall Duncan, covering all the local sports. Saints, Pelicans, Tulane, LSU, the Zurich Classic, any big events that come to town. So it's nice to have a 30-minute weekly show. WDSU had one back in the day, 6 Sports Extra. We haven't had one. We've done a lot of pop-up specials. We've had, Sunday night football games. We were at Monday night football games, preview shows, but now to have a weekly platform is nice. It starts this week at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. So you'll stay with the hour newscast.
Yes.
And the hot seat, which you love. You do a lot of hot seat stuff as well, along with your brother, Travers. But then after that, it'll be 11 o'clock. So at 11:30, it's a half an hour show?
Yeah, 11 to 11:30, yes. Our news on Sunday nights goes 10 to 11. And Travers does the hot seat. We get to do some sports hot seats every now and then, but he mostly does political talk, debates, hot button topics. So that's in the second half hour. And then we will have our show from 11 to 11:30.
Beautiful. And of course, tell us a bit about your blog and how folks can check that out. And of course, how they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, so I write columns and mock drafts and things for the WDSU digital platforms. It's been hard to do a mock draft for the Saints because
we don't know.
I mean, in years past, I was talking with Logan, who works here, about I love mock drafts. And I normally do them when the season ends, before the Senior Bowl, at the Combine. I've done none because until the Saints quarterback situation is settled, how do you do a mock draft? I just, until the big domino falls, I don't know how I go forward. So it's kind of paining me right now not to have a mock draft.
Well, and I enjoy what you do. I mean, again, from the mock drafts to, again, the trade machine, I'm all over it. I love it, and I would suggest anybody check that out over at Channel 6 website. All right, we will start with the Pels today. We'll get into the Saints in the second block. Pels now 31-32, ninth place tie with Utah, but Utah's got the advantage. They've won the season series. Again, Last night, big win over Portland, 121-110. Snapped a 4-game losing streak. Now there's 3 straight on this West Coast swing. Portland last night, Golden State on Friday, and then Sacramento on Monday. Then next week they come back for a 4-game homestand with Dallas, Oklahoma City, Portland, and the Lakers visiting the Pels here in New Orleans. Last night was what we've kind of expected all year long. I mean, again, they had some guys come off the bench that played really well for them. Jackson Hayes, you look across the board, they shot the ball better, okay, than what they have been doing lately. And of course, Brandon Ingram and C.J. McCollum dominated.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram's first 40-point game of the season. He and Damian Lillard were the 2 stars last night. I'm glad they won. I think they needed to win. Yes. I think it broke them out of a rut. I still don't think they're playing really well right now. I mean, it took a Herculean effort from Brandon Ingram, and they didn't pull away until the late 4th quarter of that game. I'm curious more to see what they do against the Warriors, who are good at home, even without some of their stars, and then the Kings, who have been a really unsung team this whole year. They have not faded. The Pelicans were 1 and faded fast. The Kings have stuck around in that 2, 3, 4 range, and the Kings look like they're going to snap there. I think it's 2005-06 was the last time they went to the playoffs. So they're going to snap the longest postseason drought in the NBA by getting in this year. Those are tough games. Dallas has struggled since they got Kyrie, but I still think Kyrie and Luka are going to figure it out. That's a tough game at home. And then, you know, the Thunder, the Blazers, and the Lakers, they got a lot of games against teams they're battling right now for these final few spots. I think when the dust settles, though, they're not getting up to 6. I don't think they're one of the 6 best teams unless Zion comes back in the next week or so, and I don't think it's happening. I think they're going to end up in the play-in, and I don't know if they make it to the playoffs this year.
Was it 19 games left now? Yeah. 18 against the West, 1 against the East. So again, they play a lot of teams that they're kind of jockeying with for a place in the maybe out of the play-in game, in the play-in game, or into the playoffs.
Yeah, and so people keep saying they have the 2nd easiest schedule down the stretch, but that's a little bit of an outlier. I get it. They've already played Milwaukee. They've already played Boston twice. They've already played Denver. They're not playing them anymore. Those are the elite teams in the league. I get it. I completely understand that. But the teams they're playing aren't, look, they got 2 against Houston. I understand that. Houston's terrible. They're tanking. They're awful. I think they got 1 against the Spurs. But they got to play the Lakers. They got to play the Blazers. They got to play Dallas. A lot of these teams, it's a little bit kind of, you know, it's not exactly fair to say they have the 2nd worst schedule because the teams they're playing are not laying down and just saying, okay, we're done for the year. Houston is, Spurs are, but the rest of these teams are going to be going hard night in and night out. The Lakers are going hard. The Thunder are going to go hard. The Blazers are definitely going hard. Dallas is definitely going hard. There's a lot of games that they're going to play down the stretch with teams that are going all out for positioning.
But at least you're playing teams in the West, so if you do win, you have a chance to move up in the standings.
Yeah, and look, maybe they get up to 7. I don't think they get up to 6. I think when the dust settles, they're probably 9 or 10. And there's a big difference between 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. 7 and 8, the winner is automatically 7. And then 8 still has a chance to face the loser or the winner of 9-10. 9-10 last year, they came from a tough spot. It was back-to-back. They had to win and win again against the Spurs and against the Clippers. I think that's where they're going to end up this year, 9-10, and I just don't know if they get through it this year.
Larry Nance out for a couple weeks now with an ankle sprain. At least 2 weeks. Jose Alvarado out for 3 weeks with a stress fracture to his right tibia. Again, Zion is supposed to get reevaluated next week. Talk Zion first. Do you anticipate him back if you do win?
I don't know. I mean, because here's the thing. They've been very cautious with Zion. I mean, he wanted to play last year when he got back, but since he disappeared and kind of ghosted them, they weren't going to put him out there just because he said he was ready to play. And it was definitely one of those things. He's posting videos of doing the warm-ups. They found a happy place, and I think Zion is happy. He wants to be here. He's engaged. But realize this. He's 22, and he starts his 5-year extension next year. So I think they understand where they are right now. They have slumped. They have struggled. Do they rush him back, or do they take the long-term approach and say, look, we understand it's frustrating. It's frustrating for the fans. It's frustrating for the front office because when Zion plays, he's a historical difference maker. He affects winning. Brandon Ingram doesn't affect winning as much as Zion does. But do you rush him back just to get into the play-in. So I just don't know. I'm curious to see when he comes back. Are they gonna kind of hold him back a little bit, knowing that maybe this year isn't the year, and next year, if he's 100%, they could do some special things.
Out since January the 2nd, and of course the tailspin in January with 3-16, losing 10 in a row, which really kind of put them in the situation they are in now. Are you surprised they were not more aggressive at the trading deadline?
No, because I truly believe, and I don't care what anybody says, they will pay the luxury tax. Gail, I know they're one of only a small number of teams that have never paid the luxury tax, but they've never been good enough to pay the luxury tax. Maybe the 07-08 year they could have paid the luxury tax and should have, but George Shinn was obviously dealing with financial situations that we didn't see until 2010 when he sold the team back to the league.
Yes.
I think that if they were 1 in the West, 2 in the West, they would have gone more in. They would have pursued OG Anunoby harder. They would have pursued Bojan Bogdanovic harder. They would have pursued John Collins harder. But I think they looked at where they were is a 7, 8, 9, 10, and they thought, well, hold on. We haven't even seen Zion B.I. and Brandon Ingram. Zion B.I. and C.J. McCollum have played 12 games together in 2 years. You don't even know who and what you are. How do you push more chips in and say we're a tax team next year because we're close? Well, you don't know if you're close. So I'm an impulsive person, especially on social media. I would have loved to have seen them do that. If Zion would have been playing and you were still 1, 2, or 3, I think they absolutely positively would have cashed in some of their draft picks, some of their young assets, and said we're going into the tax next year because we think we're on the cusp this year and we're definitely on the cusp next year. But when they lost Zion and they fell so fast, I still don't think it was the right time. And I know patience is hard overall in sports, and especially in the world we live now with social media and the 24-hour news cycle and everybody wanting everything right now. But I'm not surprised that they didn't go more all in at the trade deadline.
Well, you have some young players that are slumping now. Again, Trey Murphy's not been able to shoot as well. Dyson Daniels has been in and out the lineup injured. You look at Herb Jones, even though he's a great defensive player, offensively he's been, really bad. Jackson Hayes played well last night, but again, he rarely got off the bench. Is that the sophomore slump? Is this... those were the guys that played well early, and that gave you the thought process of, man, this is a deep team, this is a deep bench, but now they've been in more prominent roles for a long period of time where teams can adjust, film, etc., and they haven't been able to put up the numbers they were earlier.
Yeah, I think that the team has been exposed that they do have depth, and these are good players. But these aren't like Herb Jones, and I love Herb Jones. I love everything about Herb Jones. But I will say this to everybody who wants to listen. Herb Jones is not a 35-minute a night elite level star in the NBA. I don't think he's ever going to be some elite lockdown defender, defensive player of the year type. I think he is more of a 15 to 20 minute a night guy, a high level role player. I think Trey Murphy is the one who needs to play more, and when Zion comes back, we'll get open looks, and his ceiling is much higher. And that's one of the things that's perplexing about Willie Green. I really like Willie Green, and the biggest thing Willie Green does is he's an honest guy who gets buy-in from the team and handles everybody with class and dignity and respect, and is this calm, cool, confident guy. I get worked up at games, then after the press conference I go, you know what, Willie, calm me down a little bit. I believe in Willie and what they're doing. I don't know though if I believe in some of the rotations he's had, some of the X's and O's things that he's done this season. I've said since day one I think Trey Murphy should have replaced Herb Jones in the starting lineup. Herb should be coming off the bench. Trey should be starting, especially when Zion is starting. He should be getting all his minutes with him. I certainly think you look at Jose. He's great in certain matchups. When these guys have to play more, though, you understand that that's not what they are. And that's the effect of injury. When Brandon Ingram's out there, when CJ's out there, when Zion's out there, those are the guys that need to play 35 minutes a night. These other guys are role players that will fit in around them. But they're exposed a little bit more. That doesn't mean they're not good players or that the Pelicans don't have depth. When people say, where is this great depth? Well, they have it, but when you have to force Najee Marshall into 30 minutes a night, that's not the best version of him, you know? So to me, I still think they have it. I can't wait to see Dyson, now that he's healthy, play more. Trey hopefully play more. Zion come back, but I do think they were able to mask it early in the season without Brandon, because I think Zion is a difference maker. But once you were without Zion and Brandon Ingram, it was hard to mask.
Got exposed.
And even that Brandon Ingram being back, I don't think he's the difference maker that Zion is.
Right.
So it's still interesting what pieces Willie uses and how he uses them.
The trade, Richardson, Josh Richardson for Devontae Graham, I like it. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it. I think it's fine. I think I didn't love Devontae Graham.
Right.
So I would love to see Dyson get more of those minutes. I like Josh Richardson. I understand who and what he is. He's a quality, high-level role player in this league who's been on a lot of winning teams in Miami, in Boston, San Antonio last year. So I like him. What I don't like is really leaning into him and taking minutes away from Trey or even Dyson. I would like to see the younger guys that are going to be here longer getting those minutes. Look, they started Josh Richardson after the All-Star break. I think it's a mistake. They went 0-3. Started him last night and they won. I still think, the one thing I will say, Trey played more minutes than him. Najee played more minutes than him. I think that they have to understand, and Willie was a veteran, journeyman role player, so I think he leans into that know-how, but I also think he has to see the bigger picture and understand that Josh Richardson, that move was a dump to avoid the tax.
Of course.
They gave San Antonio 4 second-round draft picks to eat Devontae Graham's salary next year. Josh Richardson has no future with this team.
Right.
You may as well play Trey Murphy more, Najee, and now Dyson that he's back. Don't lean into Josh Richardson. Play Josh Richardson, but not more at the expense of those guys.
Zion does not come back. How far can they go, or do they make the playoffs?
They're a play-in team. If Zion comes back soon, maybe they get to 6. Maybe. But I don't think he's coming back until the very end of the season, so I think they're a play-in team. Maybe they get into the playoffs. And look, if they're healthy in the playoffs with Zion, B.I., Brandon, we could see something like we saw last year, if not better.
Right.
I just don't know if he's going to come back in time. I think they're going to get stuck in the play-in, and I think they're going to go out in the play-in.
Let's shift gears to college basketball. LSU now 13-17, 2-15. They had lost first 14 in a row. Their season's pretty much over. Tulane now again lost 3 in a row, 17-10, 10-6. Now they're in third place in the American Athletic Conference. UNO is on a roll here. They've won 4 in a row now. They're 10-18, 7-10. They're now qualified for the Southland tournament, where again Southeastern and Nichols are in a third place tie. Southeastern 17-13, and also Nichols 15-14, trying to look at that's the men's side here. Of all the teams that I just spoke about, what team, if any, has a chance to get to the tournament? None.
Yeah, none.
I would say none. NIT maybe for Tulane?
Yeah, Tulane, NIT, yeah, absolutely. Which would be good. I mean, look, Tulane hasn't been to the NIT or the NCAA tournament since the mid-1990s. I think 95 was the last time. So just getting to the NIT would be, Ron Hunter is building something. And again, it's hard in college basketball, especially now with transfers and guys all over the place. But look, if he gets to NIT this year in a winning record, that would be strong. Maybe next year he can get to the NCAA tournament, but I don't think anybody's getting to their. Look, I get UNO's hot right now, but I've seen too many of their games to think that they're going to go run the table in the Southland tournament. Maybe they can. Look, I love Coach over there on the lakefront. And a few years ago, they got in, and it was great in 2017 when they made it to the NCAA tournament for the first time, I believe, in almost 20 years. I think it was 20 years. I think it was 97 to 2017 was the first time they got in at UNO. And I think we all love Sless, what he does for the city.
That's a different team with Jordan Johnson, though.
Yeah, and look, maybe they can run, they can get in and get hot at the right time. Like you said, they have won 4 straight. I get it. But it's hard for me to say, yeah, they're going to the tournament. They're the team. Same with Southeastern. They were hot early, and they've tailed off a little bit right now. And their coach has done a really good job in Hammond. And I like Ron Hunter, but I just don't see, I mean, how does he get past Houston in his tournament? You know what I mean? So if he doesn't win the tournament, he's not getting in. So, again, like when you say who's going, no one. But I could definitely see Tulane in NIT.
ULL is 23-7, 13-5 in the Sun Belt. They're third. Do you think they have a shot?
I'll say this. I don't follow UL as closely as those teams. So maybe, but I don't know. You know, we cover UNO and Tulane and Southeastern. UL's on the periphery to me.
Right.
So I guess maybe, but I don't know enough about the Sun Belt tournament to say they could get in and do something.
Right. I want to mention again, Xavier's men won their conference tournament. They're in the NAIA tournament as well. Grambling first place in their conference, 28, 13-3. Loyola, your alma mater, they start in the NAIA tournament next week, both the men's and women's on the 7th at the Den. They'll be hosting there. So that's a wrap up of college basketball. And in terms of the women, LSU 5th in the nation. Obviously, again, 2nd in the SEC right now, 27-1. Tulane 17-2, 7-9. They were 7th in the American, and of course, SLU won the Southland last night in terms of the women. So that's where we are there. We'll leave it there with basketball. We'll come back and talk some Saints football. We'll also jump into LSU Tulane football as well, and we'll touch on college baseball, which just started within the last 2 weekends. So again, you're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Fletcher Mackel of Channel 6 Sports is our guest. We'll be right back.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Fletcher Mackel of Channel 6 Sports is our guest. We went through basketball. Now we'll start on football. We'll start with the New Orleans Saints. And as we open up the show, Fletch talked about, again, hasn't done a mock draft because this team is kind of in limbo right now. Everything kind of waiting on what Derek Carr is going to do. The Saints met with Derek Carr for a second time in Indianapolis yesterday. He also met a second time with the Jets and also met with the Carolina Panthers. There was a rumor earlier this week there were two other teams that had an interest, but there were no interviews up in Indianapolis with Derek Carr. The question is, wanting $35 million, the Saints seem to be all in. When does he make a decision, and how big? I would think this is a huge decision for the New Orleans Saints and what direction he goes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think he ends up in New Orleans.
Okay.
I think I've been saying it all along. I think when the dust settles, he's right for this organization, and this organization is right for him. I mean, look, if Derek Carr wants to stay in the AFC, he's crazy in my mind. I mean, you've already got the greatest player in the league in Patrick Mahomes. You've got a guy named Joe Burrow. You've got Josh Allen. You've got Justin Herbert. You've got Lamar Jackson, who we're not even talking about in Baltimore. If Tua is healthy in Miami, I think Tua is awesome and on the verge of breaking out if he can stay healthy. Who do you have in the NFC? I like Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Dak after that? Like, Derek Carr automatically becomes one of the top three quarterbacks in the NFC the second he signs with the Saints. I mean, so to me, just from a professional standpoint, I understand things change, but immediately you have a chance to do something special. And you look at this organization, they were the only ones that reached out to the Raiders and said, we want to trade for him. We want to work with you to trade for him. Nobody else. Everybody else said, we'll. The Jets didn't reach out. The Panthers didn't reach out. So I feel like the Saints, if nothing else, are always super aggressive. They're aggressive in this case. They want Derek Carr. at a certain point, Derek Carr has to realize the Jets want Aaron Rodgers and don't want him.
Yes.
Could Carolina be the dark horse in this? I think they are, because he and Frank Reich have a relationship. They're big Christians. They've done some Fellowship of Christian Athletes stuff together. I think Carolina has an owner that people believe in. Charlotte's a good city. Same thing. It's in the NFC.
Right.
I do think if Carolina wants him, that could be tempting for him to go to Carolina with a new coach and build something there. But he does know Dennis Allen. They both get a second chance to show who and what they are away from the Raiders, who are just dysfunctional in my opinion. So I think when the dust settles, he's here. Now, if the Saints swing and miss, it's a really bad look for New Orleans, because last year the Saints took the PR kick to go hard after Deshaun Watson, and he picked Cleveland.
Right.
They've gone hard after Derek Carr. They're not hiding it. He's their guy.
Right.
Can they pivot to someone else like Jimmy Garoppolo? Sure. Maybe draft somebody? Sure. Maybe run it back with Taysom and Andy? Sure. But it's just a bad look if the most important position you aggressively in back-to-back years, after targeting somebody in back-to-back years, if those players say, no, not for me, it just looks bad.
Yeah, you almost feel like if Sean Payton was here, that wouldn't be an issue in terms of trying to find that quarterback, because they want to play for a guy like Sean Payton. But they don't have that cachet right now without having this quote-unquote offensive genius as your head coach.
No, I mean, look, the reports just came out of Seattle this week that Russell Wilson wanted Pete Carroll in Schneider, their general manager, out because he wanted Sean Payton. Now he's got Sean Payton. Yes, Sean Payton came with the mystique and the aura of he's the offensive guru, he's the guy. Now you're trying to bring a quarterback in with an unproven coach that has not had a track record of success in an organization that people say, who and what are you without Sean Payton? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I still think at the end of the day, be it at the end of this week, early next week, mid next week, Derek Carr is going to be the Saints quarterback.
You know, I found it interesting that Mickey Loomis said this week, and it could be smoke, could be real, that even if they get a Derek Carr, they still are not out of the question they will draft a quarterback. A lot of people believe Hendon Hooker would be a guy they would go after, maybe at 29, maybe at 40. What are your thoughts? Do you like Hendon Hooker? If not, who do you like in this draft?
So let me answer that. If the Saints sign Derek Carr, they are not drafting a quarterback at 29 or 40. It's just not going to happen, because Derek Carr's contract will be for 4 or 5 years, probably 5 years.
5 years, yes.
And the way they're going to structure it is he will be locked in here for 3 years. Like, he is the Saints starting quarterback. If Dennis Allen's the coach or not the coach, Derek Carr is the quarterback in 2023, 2024, and probably 2025. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So there's no point in drafting a guy at 29 or 40. They have too many other needs on the defensive line, at running back with Alvin Kamara, probably another wide receiver. I mean, I could, at tight end, I could even argue for safety, because those guys are getting, up there now. So there's no way, no one will ever convince me that if they sign Derek Carr, they're still drafting Hendon Hooker at 29 or 40. There's just zero chance of that. Now, at 71, yeah, in the third round, if Hendon Hooker fell to the third round, like Ritter and Malik Willis did last year, absolutely, positively. It's too good of a value to pass on at that point. Maybe the kid Hainer, I liked him at the Senior Bowl from Fresno State in the 4th or 5th round. Absolutely. An understudy to Derek Carr, sure, no doubt about it. But there's no one that will convince me if they sign Carr, they get quarterback at 29 or 40. Now, that being said, if they don't get Derek Carr and they run it back with Andy Dalton and Taysom Hill, I can maybe see Hendon Hooker at 29. Absolutely. Hendon Hooker at 40, definitely. The kid Tanner McKee from Stanford at 40, no doubt about it. Like, then I could see if they miss on Carr and have to run it back with these guys, 100%. Go get Hendon Hooker in that 5th-year option at 29 and maybe develop him if you like him, or at 40. But if Carr's your guy, you got too many other needs, and those picks at 29 and 40 are probably going to produce needed starters immediately.
I would agree, especially, and I believe, again, offensive line is a key. Guard. There's so many good offensive tackles in this draft right now. The guards are going to fall. Sure. And there's a chance you can get one of the top 2 guards maybe at 29. And you're going to need that probably with Pete being brought out and ultimately being a cap casualty. I do want to ask you this. If they run it with Carr, what are they doing at their backup position? Are they running it with Taysom Hill, who's under contract, Jameis Winston, who's under contract, or is he getting cut, or are they bringing Andy Dalton back?
So if Carr's here, I think Dalton is gone, and I think Andy will probably be the first to say, Yeah, that there's going to be another opportunity for him. He could go. He's from Texas.
Right.
He could go to Houston and mentor Bryce Young and probably get like a huge fat 3-year deal to be a more stable backup for a young star. He could go to Indianapolis and maybe start if they draft Will Levis and have a chance to start right away. He could end up with one of these teams that, a long-term backup situation instead of a 1-year deal. So if Carr is here, I think Andy is gone. I think Jameis is cut no matter what. Jameis will not be here no matter what. There's no future for Jameis Winston in New Orleans. He's become a wonderful person. He's great with the media. I think it's great that he's become such a better human from some of the bumps in the road early in his career, but he will not be here in any way, shape, or form. Taysom is definitely here because he's under contract, and nobody's trading for his deal. It's too much money. If Carr is here, I think Taysom will be back to kind of what he was with Breeze. Okay. Could he play quarterback some? Absolutely. Right. Is he going to be more in the slot role, the special teams? Yes. That's what I think Taysom's role will be. And so let's just say Derek Carr's the guy. I think Taysom is in his jack-of-all-trade roles, and I think you bring on a younger guy. Maybe draft a younger guy. Maybe sign a younger player that you like out there that you've kept an eye on. Go re-sign Ian Book if you want. You know what I mean? Yes. Go sign Gardner Minshew as your backup. You know. Right. But if Andy is your starter, then I think you're drafting a young guy. Right. You'll go with Andy and Taysom. So again, that's why it's so hard to do mock drafts right now because we don't know what direction they're going in at the most important position on the team. And you and I talked about this on the radio show. You've always been a guy who's been really behind Taysom Hill as a quarterback. Yeah. I have not. I've changed my feeling on that because of the way the NFL has gone, especially if you're going to draft somebody like a Hendon Hooker. You need to change that offense to more of a dual threat type offense. Is that where a guy like Taysom Hill comes in and says, well, maybe that's the starter, or again, maybe that is your primary backup, and then eventually again you're going with maybe a Taysom Hendon Hooker type situation. Maybe, yeah, maybe. I mean, look, I've always been a believer in Taysom Hill. I think if they'd have started Taysom Hill last year, they probably would have won more games. I don't understand why Dennis and Mickey were so opposed to Taysom Hill. I mean, look, if you remember Sean's last year here, he and Jameis were neck and neck in training camp. I mean, the Jacksonville game definitely put Jameis over the top, but 2 50-50 balls to Marquez Callaway were the difference in Taysom being the starter versus the backup, and then Dennis just punted on that and gave Jameis the job last year. So I'm not opposed if they said, we're going to lean into Taysom as the starter and have Hendon Hooker develop. Sure. I don't think they'll do it. I think they like Andy. They'll bring Andy back as the starter and have Andy and Taysom 70-30. Right. I just don't see a situation where they'll make Taysom the full-time starter. Let's talk a little bit about the running back position. Alvin Kamara today pleads not guilty to the charges, as we believed he would. Those are felony charges. Again, I'm sure there's going to be some try to deal to work that down to a misdemeanor. Ultimately, again, times doing some off the field charity work through the courts. And then again, maybe the NFL coming down with a maybe 4, 6, or 8 game suspension. What are your thoughts on the Kamara situation in terms of possible games missed? So again, it's still so wide open right now. Look, of course he had to plead not guilty today. Of course. I still think this gets rectified before that trial date on July 31st. Because if Alvin Kamara is found guilty, look, we just saw a case here sadly where there was a tragic death with a Lamborghini driver, and I believe that the civil case was $52 million for a wrongful death. The gentleman, I think, is suing Alvin Kamara right now for like $10 million. At some point, I believe there'll be some kind of compromise because if Alvin Kamara is found guilty, then he's going to lose. More than likely, I'm not a legal analyst, but he's going to lose, I would assume, the civil case as well. So I think before this gets to a jury and a trial, it is settled. Plus, Alvin Kamara could face jail time. Even if, look, Alvin Kamara's never been in trouble before. Right. That's the key. Yeah, of course. Do I think Alvin Kamara is going to go to, even if the judge gives him house arrest, he's still potentially going to lose. House arrest means he can't do his job. Right. And he'll be suspended a lot longer by the NFL, and he could lose even more money in a civil trial. So I think this is going to be dealt with sometime between now and July 31st in some capacity, even if Alvin Kamara and his camp have to swallow hard and settle this in some way. So again, what does it come to at the end of the day? Look, I think the minimum is probably going to be 2 games, 3
Right.
games, and it could probably be 6 or 8 games. So, but what do I think it's going to be? I still just don't know.
Right.
Like, I still don't know, because the fact that it's going on this long is a little bit perplexing.
Right.
But yeah, I would say minimum 2, absolute minimum 2, and probably a max of 8.
Right.
But I don't know where to pick it.
Right, but you do think, as I do, again, that there's going to be a deal in the Las Vegas courts to plead this thing down, probably community service, and then a situation where, again, on the civil side here in Louisiana, we're going to probably try to settle that out of court and just come up with the cash.
Yeah, I think that it's all going to be worked upon and agreed to before it ever gets to a court date.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Excuse me.
Lot of talk now again about what direction do they go. They need a big back. They need a back that, again, kind of emulates what Alvin Kamara does. Do they go in the draft and get both of those? Leonard Fournette is about to be let go by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's only 28 years old. I believe he's still got tread on the tires. Some people don't. He's a 3-down back that can catch the ball. He's a local guy. Does he come finish his career here in New Orleans? Is that a possibility? They need a big back.
They need a back. I mean, look, here's the thing. Alvin Kamara and Eno are the only guys under contract. Eno Benjamin are the only guys under contract right now. So they need somebody, especially if Alvin Kamara is going to miss time this year. So I think the draft, like if Bijan Robinson from Texas falls, which I think would be crazy, but yeah, draft him. You know, there's a kid, Jameer, I'm forgetting his last name right now, jersey number 1. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. If he's there at 40, he'd probably be a really good back for the Saints. But yeah, free agency, I certainly think Leonard Fournette is a possibility. But until the Saints have a quarterback and you know what you're doing, it's hard to put the other pieces
the
in
dominoes
place.
don't fall, right?
Like, that's the hard thing for me is this domino has to fall before anything else happens. Like, until you know which direction you're going with. Like, if you strike out on Derek Carr, other free agents may say, I don't know if I want to go there. I don't know who and what that team's going to be. They may be looked at as kind of like I hate to use the term, like an afterthought of a team that it just nobody's going to believe in what they're doing or how they're going to do it. People will look at Dennis Allen as, oh no, they're done. He's going to get fired. They're a mess right now. Whereas if you get Derek Carr, other veterans may say, you know what? Look at the NFC, like what I said earlier. We can win the NFC South. We can win the NFC. I'll go there on a 1-year deal. I'll join that team and be part of that. Whereas if you don't, so again, until that happens, I don't think anything else. But yes, I like Leonard Fournette. I still think he certainly has productive years ahead of him, and I certainly think he would fit the New Orleans Saints. So yes, I think that would be great.
Even if Kamara came back, he would fit the Saints.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I think they could be a tandem in the backfield. And again, that's not just about LSU. You're talking about a physical guy who, again, he fits what they're looking for. 3-down back, he can block, he does all the things that they want him to do. Needs on offense, to me, again, we talked about running back, quarterback, obviously the big one, offensive guard, or wide receiver. Now, wide receiver, is it a rookie wide receiver or is it a veteran wide receiver in your opinion?
Yeah, so that's an interesting case. I remember, a few years ago when they brought Emmanuel Sanders in, because you had Mike Thomas and you felt like you needed a number 2.
Yes.
I feel like Chris Olave can be your number 1, but I certainly think you need someone, and I believe that Dennis and Mickey have talked about it, that Michael Thomas type, that when you got to throw the ball into traffic, you've got that physical guy that can get the ball and is coming down with it. Because certainly Rashid Shaheed looks like a burner. Chris Olave has great speed, but I do think they probably maybe they do find it in free agency, but could it be in the draft? Absolutely, positively. But I certainly think, I don't think Michael Thomas will be back. I know there's been some reports maybe he could be back. I don't think Michael Thomas is playing here ever again. So
what about Jarvis Landry?
I don't think he's playing here either. I think that was a one-year deal. It didn't work out. I'd be shocked if he's back. So I certainly could see the draft. But yeah, free agency is certainly an option. I think they're going to release Andres Pete as a salary cap move. Look, James Hurst could kick inside. I mean, he's played all over the place, and he's been solid.
I think he should be your jack of all trades guy on that line.
Yeah, but he's been a solid starter. So if you have to kick him inside, I'm okay with him as a starter. But like if you can find value in the first round and get a plug-and-play guy, I'm absolutely for that. Certainly defensive line. They have no one under contract right now. I mean, to me, that is their biggest need.
Me too.
People keep talking about end because Davenport's a free agent, but Cam still is playing well. Granderson had a solid year. You're still invested in Peyton Turner. You better find some guys to play the interior of that defensive line. So to me, that's a bigger need than end.
Right. Some people are talking about Ika, the kid who used to play LSU to play for Baylor
now. Yeah.
You know, I mean, again, they need, maybe bringing back a Sheldon Rankins, okay?
Yeah.
You know, possibly. But that's where they are right now. They need interior defensive linemen. I agree with you 100% there. How about the safety position with Marcus May possibly being suspended?
So I look at it and say that I think that's a bigger position of need than people let on because the way Dennis Allen plays, he basically plays like a 4-2-5 with 2 linebackers and 5 safeties. And when the Saints were playing well all those years, people don't give Malcolm Jenkins enough credit. When they had Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And last year, I like Marcus May and I like Tyrann Mathieu, but I still think you're missing that third safety. Like maybe they can play Alontae Taylor there, is that kind of hybrid safety corner role. But I think Alontae Taylor could start at cornerback for them and replace Paulson Adebo as a starter opposite Marshawn Lattimore. So I think safety is a sneaky need that they could potentially address in the draft or free agency.
Right. Can we put to bed that the Saints are going to be in a house cleaning mode where, again, they're going to trade a lot of their veterans? Because they can't, because they've kicked the can down the road on these guys so much. The dead money at this point that would come due would be able to negate any type of contract changes that they've made to try to get under the cap so far, right?
Yeah, so people say, cut these guys, move on. But they're not going to pay Cam to play for another team.
Right.
DeMario to play for another team. I get it that the way they structure deals makes it hard to just get out of guys clean.
True.
Okay? But the Saints, we know now, it's not even worth talking about. They're never going to tear it down. They had a chance to tear it down in 2006, and they didn't do it after Katrina.
Right.
They signed Breeze. They didn't draft a quarterback. They've never said, you know what, tear it down, punt these guys, and let's start. That's just not what they're going to do. They're in on Carr right now. They are not going to do that. So, again, that's just never how they're going to operate.
I would agree with you there. What did you think about the coaching changes, especially on the defensive end, the changes that were made? Do you like them? Are they upgrades? Is it too early to tell?
It's too early to tell. I mean, Dennis Allen's defensive coordinator.
Right.
I'm glad he's got a guy that he at least worked with for 1 year. I feel like it's more his staff now. Last year, the big thing was continuity. They rolled over Sean Payton. Well, now it's Dennis's staff. It's Dennis's team. These are Dennis's guys.
Right.
So, to me, I want to see more what he does with his own. I get Ryan Nielsen. Arthur Smith's a good young coach in Atlanta. Ryan Nielsen gets to be his own guy. I get Chris Richard kind of being pushed out. The secondary was not great this year. So we'll see. These are Dennis's guys. This is his defense. Go to it.
What do you think Ronald Curry's role is going to be?
I still think he's going to be. I'm glad he's getting more of a role.
Right.
But look, they kept Pete. They could have moved on from Pete and promoted Ronald Curry, who was in demand. I think the roles are going to be similar.
Are you surprised he stayed?
Well, I mean, he didn't get another.
Right.
Sean didn't hire him as his offensive coordinator, and I know he interviewed for other jobs. I think Ronald Curry is a smart guy and a good coach, and I'm surprised he didn't get a job.
Right.
But no, I'm not surprised he stayed because there weren't any other options, and I think that this is a chance to show that it wasn't all Sean, that you can work with Pete and you can be your own guy and you all can create something here, and that will lead to more opportunities for you.
Final question on the Saints. Free agency comes. Will they be, once again, like they are normally, the second wave of free agency, or will they strike out and get someone?
Well, Derek Carr is going to be their big hit if they get him, and I think they're going to get him. Then, yes, they will take a secondary role because they won't be aggressive players on the market because just getting Carr's contract and the money is going to be interesting, so they won't have a lot left to spend.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's talk some college football. Start with Tulane. Their spring practice has begun. The big thing is obviously again the fact that Willie Fritz is coming back, even though there have been a lot of changes on that staff, and of course Michael Pratt, the quarterback, Sincere Haynesworth, the center. They've got some stability there. Talk about the Greenies.
Yeah, look, I think Tulane is really good. They've got some significant losses on defense.
Yes, they do.
Those linebackers were awesome. Dorian Williams, Nick Anderson, awesome. And look, Tajay Spears, guys like that don't grow on trees. I mean, he's a star running back whose NFL stock is rising. But keeping Pratt away from another Power 5 team was huge. I think Willie's a good coach. Look, Slade Nagel called the plays last year. Him being back, I think Willie's got a chance to have And especially because, with all due respect, some of the best teams in the American are leaving to go to the Big 12. I think Tulane has a chance to repeat as conference champs and end up in another Power 5 bowl game this year. I think they could be really good.
I think you have to watch Texas San Antonio because I think they're kind of an underrated team coming into the conference. But I would agree with you. I would think Tulane would be the odds-on favorite there. Looks like the offensive backfield is going to be strong for them. The wide receiver position still strong for them as well.
Yeah.
Tight end. Look, they got 4 of their 5 starters on offense coming back, offensive line, and they bring in Cam Wire from LSU.
Right.
So it looks like the offensive line will be tough as well. The real question mark is going to be on defense, as you mentioned, kind of being able to fill in for those guys that played so well for them, across the board.
Yeah, and you lost your defensive coordinator, so and you've gone through a couple now. Obviously, you hire somebody, then he gets plucked by Miami. So that's going to be interesting to see because, look, a couple of years ago, defense was their Achilles heel. Then they figured it out, and the offense was the one that struggled. Last year, they put it all together with some good playmakers, and I think it was a great story. From 2-10, they stuck together. They stayed the course. They learned. They evolved. They used that kind of is kind of like I guess an inspiration to show we're not going to fall apart. We're better than what this was. I think their offense is going to be fine. I do have questions about their defense in stopping some of these teams that can throw up some serious points.
But it seems like Willie Fritz has figured it out, right? I mean, from a recruiting standpoint, again, it was more of a national recruiting, kind of tapping into the states in which he really kind of had inroads, Georgia, etc. He's slowly made inroads into Louisiana, but he's used that transfer portal, allowing Louisiana kids and New Orleans kids to come back, have a chance to play at home after maybe again, maybe not working out in their first choice. That they had 10 guys last year that really turned the tide for them, and it looks as though again along the same lines again this year with the transfer portal.
Yeah, and we talk about the linebacker position. You got a kid from Holy Cross and La Tech, Grubbs. That's as a good linebacker.
He's a tackle machine.
Yeah, that could be really, really good coming off an injury for him. And so you're right. I mean, the kid that went to Colorado from Warren Easton, the running back. Again, he's done a really good job of getting
Clayton
kids.
Johnson, right?
Yeah, Shoddy. And so number 0. And so he has done a really good job and will continue to do that to his advantage, which is smart.
Right. Yeah. And Tulane on the map now, where a lot of those guys may have been going to ULL in the past. They're going to Tulane now, and of course that gives Tulane a little bit more stability. Plus, again, look, Louisiana puts out a lot of great athletes, high school football players, and when those guys go to those other schools and then they don't make it, or again now with the transfer portal, obviously again that gives them an opportunity to come home. Also now the fact that they got that Fear the Wave collective, which again has really helped them in terms of NIL, which again wasn't really there before this run to the Cotton Bowl.
No, you're right. That's what kept Michael Pratt. That's what kept Sincere Hainsworth.
Right.
I mean, the fact that they've got some people that they can be involved in the NIL, and it's not just, the Power 5 teams are going to steal our guys. It's important in the world that we live in today in college athletics.
I agree, and the fact that they're moving on, and they're now again moving forward to upgrade the facilities, which again Troy Dannon has talked about, that they're on the way to do that, which again is key, especially when you look at even some of the teams that are coming into the American now who have better facilities than Tulane.
Yeah, again, they need some type of enclosure, so when it rains they're not at the Saints facility or the Dome or just a canceled practice.
And then look, they all need the players' lounge and the weight room and just the amenities that players are expecting now when it comes to college athletics. It's an arms race. You got to participate.
I agree.
Up at LSU, Brian Polian has now transitioned off the field to a GM-type role. I found that interesting. He's going to focus on daily operations, recruiting, and NIL. Obviously, again, the special teams did not play well for this team last year at all. John Janik's been named the special teams coordinator. Bob Diasso is going to be an analyst for this team for special teams. But Polian's role is interesting because this is something kind of new in college football, where, again, you got a guy that's almost like an NFL GM now, who's looking at NIL, looking at other teams, possible transfers, and of course, involved in the recruiting as well.
Yeah, and again, the special teams were, so bad.
They were atrocious.
Like, so bad last year that I think, but look, Polian's a good guy. He coached in New Orleans, but he was head coach at Nevada. His dad, obviously, is an NFL Hall of Fame.
Yes.
and he was with Brian Kelly. He came with him. So I think there's a lot of loyalty there, but it's hard to overlook the results were just so abysmal that some type of change needed to be made. So obviously, if this is a better fit and it helps Polian save face and move into a role where he could excel, and he's obviously under contract.
Yes.
So I think it's probably better for everybody that this happened.
Spring practice starts on Monday. What are you anticipating with this team?
I think they're going to be really good. I think the fact that Jaden Daniels is back makes LSU a true contender. I mean, look, I was at that Bama game last year. I think Brian Kelly, for everybody who underestimated him, shame on you, because he showed he can coach, he can recruit, he can run a program, he can do it the right way. This is the kind of coach that LSU has needed. I love Coach O. I like Les Miles.
Right.
This is the CEO type figure that a program of this stature needed to have and can create the Bama-like success that LSU fans have longed for, but that has avoided them except every decade. They're an every decade program. Every decade LSU wins a national championship. It's awesome. But those years in between, they're just not there. I think he has a chance to make them an every year program, not an every decade program.
They seem to be very solid at tight end, solid at wide receiver. They are right now. I think the kid Holly out of Baton Rouge is one of the guys they're trying to pin their hopes on as far as the running back position, which is kind of weird because LSU's always had great running back stables, and again they haven't really had that for the most part over the last few years. They had some really good guys, but again not where it used to be. Offensive line looks to be really good, but again maybe depth might be an issue there, and then defensively you take the offense first and then kind of jump into the defense on how you think this team looks.
Yeah, no, I think they're solid. I think there's certainly questions in the secondary,
right?
Because of what they lost.
Banks just left.
Sure, I know, and so I certainly think that's going to be a big question mark is they enter spring football and then the fall. But offensively, look, I'm a big Nussmeier guy. I'm curious to see what he does because Jaden Daniels is the starter. I'm curious to see if Garrett Nussmeier gets a better opportunity to lead.
Are they going to split reps, you think?
I don't know. I'm curious to see how it works because I think Nussmeier's talented and he showed his talent.
Yes.
Nobody's ever doubted it, but he showed it in the SEC
you almost have to, right? You don't want him transferring and after spring practice, and then you're left with Ricky Collins as your backup.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Again, they already lost a legacy kid.
Right, in Walker Howard.
Right, in Howard at Ole Miss now, which I still don't understand that move of him going to Ole Miss. But, if Nussmeier leaves now, if he gets a better opportunity. But I think the offense is good. I certainly think there's massive question marks for the LSU defense, and we'll see in spring how it all shakes out.
Yep, no doubt about it. Let's talk a little baseball with the time we have left here. First of all, we want to congratulate Delgado head baseball coach Joe Sherman, his 1100th win. That is most by any Louisiana baseball coach with one team. They're 12-2 right now over Delgado. What a legacy he has now coming off his dad, Rag Sherman, who we both knew. And of course, again, that Delgado program, which has been a great feeder school, not just for, again, LSU and Tulane, but a lot of schools. Kids go there, they get better, they have a chance to be able to go and play at a major school.
I mean, I played for Joe.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I jokingly tweeted that Joe Sherman won 1,100 games, and if he wouldn't have let me pitch in some of those games, he may have reached that 1,000 and that 1,100th win a little bit sooner. But Joe Sherman runs a great program, is one of those legends in baseball in junior college and in Louisiana. So congratulations to him. Does a great job, and has turned out a lot of really great talent for LSU, for Ole Miss, for Tulane, for UNO, and then you're right, for the Loyolas and the Bellhavens and the William Carys and the Spring Hills as well.
Right.
So congratulations to him. I think LSU's really good. I think LSU is going to end up in Omaha this year. I mean, they have too much talent. They're still figuring out some things with their lineup, but I think they're just so good, so deep, so talented that if they're not in Omaha, it'll be a massive letdown.
Especially with the pitching they have now, right?
You can roll Skeens out every Friday night, and you're going to win every game. I mean, he's that good. So to me, and then you still have other depth. I mean, look, Thatcher Hurd is a midweek guy. He may eventually move into the rotation. That's one thing they didn't have last year. No offense to Mackel Hilliard. He's a midweek guy. He was your Friday night guy last year. In just the depth they have offensively, I mean, they have guys. Pearson last year was a star at the end of the season. He can't even play now. I mean, they just have so much depth, and they're so good. And it's just, I mean, Cruz may be the top pick in the draft. Trey Morgan is awesome.
Right.
Like, I expect this kid Tommy Tanks to start hitting the ball eventually when the injury heals that he has. So they're just so good. They're going to be, I think, in the World Series this year. Tulane is not very good. They're 1-8 right 1-8 right now. They lost to UNO last night.
Are you surprised?
No. He lost a lot of talent.
Right.
Look, his best player, Goff, went to Ole Miss.
Right.
His catcher went to Wake Forest. His closer went to Georgia. No, I think he's void of talent. I'm curious to see. Everybody loves Jay Ullman. All the alumni. Travis Jewett did a really bad job. Are they going to be
patient with him?
Not get rid of him after 1 year.
Right.
How patient is patient, though? So Travis Jewett did a bad job of incorporating the alumni, celebrating the history. He alienated a lot of the fan base. Jay Ullman has really done a fantastic job. My roommates played at Tulane. Brian Hughes is in the Hall of Fame there. Jason Fitzgerald was a first-round draft pick. Keith Graffinini. These guys have been welcomed back. Mike Romano. He's done a fantastic job of bringing them back. So the alumni like him. The boosters like him. He's got to recruit and get some talent.
Right.
And I think this is going to be a real bad year for them.
Right.
UNO and Blake, I hope Blake can break through this year.
Yes.
He's 4-4 right now.
Right.
He's got to figure out his pitching, but I hope Blake Dean can get to a regional this year. Matt Reiser's team,
7-2 right now.
Dude, really good.
Right.
Second best start in Southeastern history. Went to a regional last year. I think they're going to be a real force in the Southland in a regional team this year.
And Nichols is 4-4 in the Southland as well. One final question for you as we wrap it up here today. You're a Loyola alum. They have proven they have a very good athletic program, men's and women's. Do you anticipate them going Division I anytime soon?
They should have already done it. I love Kevin Wildes, the former president. He's a good friend of mine. He made a mistake by not moving them into the NCAA. I think Tanya Tetlow was fantastic. I wish she was still there. I wish she wouldn't have gone to Fordham. Somebody's got to push them forward. They are too good to be in the NAIA. They are a Division I program, and they have proven it.
I agree.
Brett Simpson does a great job. His thing is I don't care where we're going to play. We're going to win at every level, and they do. Their baseball team, their basketball teams, they are awesome at the NAIA, and they should be celebrated. He has created a Division I program, and it is an injustice. They are not in the Southland, the Sun Belt, or the Atlantic 10 right now.
I think the Southland would be perfect for them.
I agree.
And I don't know why it hasn't happened yet, but I agree with you. I think they built a juggernaut there now, and it's time to take the next step.
Yeah, the A-Sun would be the best fit because it's not a football conference.
Right, that's a great point.
So that's where they would probably fit best.
Okay.
Because the Sun Belt has football, and the Southland, besides UNO, has football. So to me, the A-Sun is where they should go. But again, just keep dominating in the NAIA until somebody wakes up over there, a president, a board of directors, and says you should be Division I.
Final question. There was a push for UNO to get football.
Yeah.
That did not happen. There's still a push behind the scenes. They're trying to get that done. They really need a benefactor to get that stadium off the ground. Of course, everybody looks to Gail Benson, right, to do that. Do you think it'll happen?
It should have happened. I'm sad it didn't happen. Tim Duncan does a great job. They need football. They should have football.
I agree.
A stadium out there would benefit the community.
Everybody.
That entire plan was masterful.
Yes.
And the students just didn't want it because it's too much of a commuter school and people are struggling financially right now. I understand what everybody's dealing with, but it was a masterful plan, and I hope that they don't put it to rest. I hope it can still come to fruition.
Well, they need that benefactor. And again, to me, it would be for Gail Benson to grow football in this community would be a big thing, obviously, for the Saints as well. Put her name on the stadium, whatever you got to do. We look to her because she's the richest person in the state. But again, they need a benefactor there. But I agree with you. Needs to get done. Needs to get done as soon as possible. No doubt about it. Fletch, thanks for joining us today. Always appreciate it. One more time, got a new show coming up.
Game On every Sunday night, 11 o'clock on WDSU, starting this Sunday night.
So if you can't see it live, set the DVR so you got it each and every week. There you go. Fletch, thanks for joining us. Fletcher Mackel, Channel 6 Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen that will take you right to the WLAE-TV YouTube page or to my website. And of course, choose the time slot that you like. Watch us on that time slot, or set your DVR. So again, you'll never miss Inside New Orleans Sports. You catch me on the radio 4 to 6 weekdays, 106.1 FM. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Also, again, the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app, or our digital platforms. We are our podcast podcast is on all podcasting platforms. Anchor's our home base, Spotify, but search Inside New Orleans Show with Eric Asher, and you'll find the podcast very easily. I want to thank all the underwriters that help our show. They create, again, keep this show going. Please continue to support the underwriters that support our program. And of course, again, there's a long list of those guys coming up at the end of the program. You'll be able to see that. Please support those underwriters. And then special thanks to, again, the production staff here at WLAE. They do a fantastic job each and every week producing our program. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Rafia, Alex Chacon, and our director, William Hill. With Fletcher Mackel, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in to Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll see you next week for another edition.